Hey guys, I am Lana. This is from Corporate to Crystals. We are back for another video. In this video, we're going to be talking about a collective shadow. This one's they're all really important, but this one I'm seeing so consistently right now. It's just going to get way bigger up ahead. And so I wanted to talk about it a little bit. We're going to call this one followers because we have a collective who have become accustomed to following others. And that's not to shame anyone because that's actually like kind of the patriarchy was built that way. In the last couple of videos, we talked about the patriarchy and like they're very materialistic focus. So they're very focused on the third dimensional reality, very superficial. There's not much depth to it. They're not connected to the feminine, Sophia. Therefore, there's not tons of like emotional or empathetic understanding as they were building systems or creating structures or whatever, right? And so now that Sophia is back in equilibrium, it is all manifesting to shift everything in the lower dimensions. So from that place, we can understand why when the patriarchy's value system was based off of materialism, power, status, appearances, wealth, right? Things of that sort. That's all kind of like 3D reality stuff. So they built a hierarchy where the people who had the most of those things were the most valuable. The people with the most money and status and power and whatever, they're the most valuable. They're the most worthy individuals from a patriarchal standpoint. And so our systems even reflect that. So if you think about a good example, social media. Even the fact that social media, I'm thinking Instagram specifically, but they all have this where it's like, it shows, it's like a badge of honor. You get a blue check mark. You have like a check mark which shows you're legit, you're official, right? That's ego. There's like a badge of honor there. You also have your followers, the counting of followers visible on your profile. And so we have a collective of followers who follow other people that they deem as superior to them for whatever reason, whether they're more educated, more high status, more attractive, more powerful, wealthy, whatever. And so this has become traditional. This has become like standard for our patriarchal system. And so it creates this drive within people to have to seek positions of power, seek status, seek wealth, right? And I'm not saying that any of these things are inherently bad, but what happens when that is the goal is that we get very large amounts of abuse of power, right? So if we don't have the equilibrium of the feminine with it, then people get lost very quickly. Because Sophia is emotions, intuition, empathy, right? It's the softer things. It's Mother Earth. So when we're not connected to protecting our planet, that's not going to end well. Like we need her for all of our resources. Without her, we have nothing. We are connected to her as well. So the reason she is dying is because we were killing her, because our patriarchal belief system was literally destroying her. So now that Sophia is back, systems are being rebuilt with her in mind, the feminine in mind. And that is kind of like New Earth. That's where we're headed. So in the meantime, we're in a spiritual war. And that spiritual war is every individual navigating their own path, navigating their own consciousness and their own soul to make conscious decisions of how they're going to move. What are they going to do? And you could imagine this collective shadow of being a follower is incredibly dangerous when you are responsible for your own soul, your own path, the consequences of your own actions, right? And so that's why I wanted to talk about this. I'm going to read some Bible verses. We're going to start with Matthew 24:37 and read a few of the passages. For just like the days of Noah were, so the coming of the Son of Man will be. For in those days before the flood, people were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage until the day Noah entered the ark. And they knew nothing until the flood came and took them all away. It will be the same at the coming of the Son of Man. Okay, so I've been sitting with the story of Noah for a while. And if you do research, there are stories of floods throughout ancient civilizations all over the world. Okay, Noah is just one of the many. But what this story represents to me is the fact that Noah was kind of like he was a way shower. He was an individual who was divinely inspired with information from the divine because he was connected, and he was taking intentional action based off of that divine inspiration, right? And I'm sure he had tons of people calling him crazy, tons of people not understanding what he was doing. And then if they would have actually asked, gotten to know him, not thought he was crazy, whatever, they could have actually potentially started building their own ark or joined on his ark or whatever, right? You get the point. But there are a whole collective of light workers building a ark. And then we have a bunch of followers in our collective who are not using their own critical thinking skills. They're not paying attention. They're distracting themselves. They aren't even aware they're in a spiritual war. And because of that, they're eating, they're drinking, they're being merry, just like my collective shadow video talking about the Super Bowl, right? We've got people just distracted, living life, pretending everything's business as usual, while the energetics are here. If we want to use the term the rapture, we're literally in it. We've been in it. Everyone was making choices, and now karma is being served. Consequences to actions are being served. Over the last however many years, we'll call it a handful, since the pandemic was a massive catalyst for the whole collective. Since that time, and it started before that, but you get my point, every single soul was invited in a variety of ways to soften, to connect to their own feminine, to connect to Sophia in a variety of ways. And they made choices. And those choices, you reap what you sow. The reality is, though, as they're sitting there continuing to suppress their own feminine, if that's the choice they made, it's going to catch up to them. And then they literally just have to deal with the repercussions of those choices. And there will be consequences for it because the energetics on the planet, no one can escape this at all, because the energetics of the planet are unfortunately more important than one soul. And so I know intuitively that in the days of Noah, it was the same stuff. It's a reset button. It is a reset button that we got so out of balance for whatever reason. There's so many reasons, energetic manipulation and nefarious agendas and all this stuff. But the reality is this has happened multiple times throughout human history, is when the energetics on the planet get so out of balance where the equilibrium is off so much, they just have a reset button. And that's essentially where we're at. We're in a reset button. Now, there's timeline splits. And the timeline split is essentially people who are building the ark and people who are not. And I believe there's exit routes the whole way through because the way showers are essentially glitches in the matrix to get people to be like, what is going on? This is crazy. Or I never thought of that. Maybe that's a different way to do it. Maybe I should change my life. Maybe I should listen to these people, whatever. Just if someone was walking by Noah as he's building the ark, they could be like, yo, Noah, why are you building this ark, dude? And he'd be like, he'd tell them. And then in that moment, they get to make a choice, just like right now. I know for myself, as well as every other light worker, God is using us and putting us strategically in a variety of places around a bunch of individuals who are given invitations to be open-minded, invitations to be non-judgmental, invitations to be curious and ask some questions. in order for them to potentially learn from someone who's going through an experience that's divinely inspired, in order to help other people, right? And people made their choices with all of us on how they were going to handle that situation, and they will reap what they sow. But being a follower in a time like this, when you are responsible for your own conscious choices, you are responsible for your own soul, and whether you're going to save it or not, you are responsible for your own consciousness and your own conscious decisions. That is why this is such a dangerous collective shadow. Now, there are individuals that I believe are, some people call them NPCs, like non-player characters. I understand what we're saying when we say that, but there's like a hive mind of individuals who I believe are just not meant to ascend. They're meant to go in a different timeline. Their soul chose that. That's part of their destiny path, and that's totally fine, right? No one's better than anyone here. We're all at various stages of our journey. But you can imagine old souls who have done the Earth School thing a bunch of times likely aren't going to be in a hive mind group. So you have a bunch of old souls, starseeds, individuals who have higher states of consciousness that are literally here to build an ark, land in a new timeline, fix the energetic grid of our planet, and then we've got a bunch of people who are followers, and they're in such low consciousness levels that they can't possibly alter their thinking to be open-minded enough to think maybe this person really is divinely inspired. Maybe something really is going on with this person. Maybe I should listen. Maybe I shouldn't judge. And at the very least, if they don't want to listen, they don't want to whatever, they could, at least just shut their mouth and let someone do what they're divinely inspired to do, because it doesn't negatively impact their life at all, basically. So being a follower in this time is incredibly dangerous. And that's not to promote fear, that's to bring awareness to the fact that this is a shadow within our collective, and it's going to get bigger. Okay, so now that the light is back, essentially we're back in equilibrium, the light is going to overthrow the darkness on our planet. So what does that mean? We're going to bring light to darkness that has been existing that people are unaware of. So we've been living in this reality thinking, this is just reality, this is how it is. When the fact that it's a fallen reality, that is now going to have light put on it, and it's going to blow people's minds, right? As this happens, there's a lot of well-intended people and individuals who are truth seekers and who have been trying to do the right thing, but they had false light. They were given wrong information, and that's not their fault. That is systemic issues, that is familial patterning, societal patterning, programming, and we all have this in a variety of ways. So there's no victim complex here. Like, every single person has their own familial programming and their own societal programmings. It is our responsibility to think critically for ourselves, our own soul, to be curious, ask questions, And as these well-intended truth seekers who have been navigating in false light unknowingly, they're going to hit illusions up ahead because they're following false light. And that illusion that they hit is going to be paradigm shifting for them. And that's a very loud experience. And it can be really, it can create post-traumatic stress disorder. So it's going to be very intense for the collective, as in a variety of ways, we all hit illusions. And those illusions kind of break the paradigm that we've been operating in. So as everyone's eating and drinking and being merry, they're not going to be able to continue to do that as they hit illusions that the reality that they know isn't real. It's now changing, right? Excuse me. So God has had a variety of people in very unsuspecting positions. God has had light workers in the shadows. God has had light workers in positions all over the world that, a homeless man on the side of the street could literally be spiritual royalty. And I think that's part of the paradigm shift that's going on right now is as the patriarchy kind of crumbles and Sophia, the matriarchy, is brought back into her equilibrium, her own power, we start recognizing that there's another path, there's another route, there's another reality that is birthing, right? And so in the patriarchy, your power, your status, your money, your appearance, your whatever, that's how we gauge as a society if we should follow someone, if they're a leader, if they're worthy, how valuable this person is, right? That's not how Sophia operates. Sophia is emotional and spiritual and empathetic and connected to the earth, right? So what we're going to see is a lot of changes within this society where people are going to be softening. Everything is going to be softening. So individuals who, I had to Google what clout was because I didn't even know. I heard people say that word and I was like, I don't know what clout means. But there are individuals that I guess the way that they operate their life is based off of clout, based off of status, based off of image. And so they pick everything in their life with like a materialistic, superficial like perspective. And those individuals that's an illusion that's going to be broken for them up ahead because that's not reality. That's ego. And that stems from a place of insecurity within them. They don't feel worthy internally. Therefore, they need clout. They need to be around people who make them feel better about themselves. They can't possibly do the spiritual work themselves to, get to where they want to go. They'd prefer to just like ride coattails of other people. Or like, this person looks like they have a lot of money, so I'm going to go over there. This person looks hot, so I'm going to follow that. So they pick things from a materialistic, superficial level. And so a lot of that is going to be dismantling because that's very patriarchal belief systems. And that's not how Sophia operates, essentially. Okay, yeah, so a lot of people are going to be hitting these illusions. It's going to be, kind of intense. But let's talk about like some of the illusions that I anticipate we're going to be experiencing. Okay, so I'm going to do the first one, decolonization. Okay, so if you do research on history, and like real history, not like the history that's in your history book in public school, and that's a different video. But I believe that there is information, wisdom out there, and typically the indigenous communities have tons of wisdom for us all to get additional information, additional perspectives, additional narratives of kind of our history as a planet. And especially within the United States. I think that's a very important conversation. So I'm going to leave it with decolonization is one of the things that there will be a lot of exposure around. And then capitalism and how it's destroying our planet, stuff like that, casual. Okay, we're going to have leaders who will be given choices. So their choice is proactively step down from their patriarchal role, let's say, or if their ego won't allow them to do that, if they can't let go, they're being guided to, but they won't do it. They can't for whatever reason, probably ego. Then if they don't proactively step down, they will be removed from their patriarchal roles, potentially. And that's going to be people who are not operating in balance, right? If you're operating in balance and you're doing right in your role, then I'm sure if it's part of your path, you could continue doing it. But there's a lot of people who are going to be pivoting because they're being guided to. Because as the systems are breaking, you can either go down in a sinking ship or you could follow your intuition and God is going to guide you to like your next steps. So you're going to see a lot of leaders or people of influence, celebrities, whatever, you're going to see people making big changes because they're being guided to do that. They're following their soul and they're following their divine guidance in order to get out of a sinking ship, essentially. And then those that are getting that guidance and choosing not to do it, they're going to hit an illusion, and that's how their paradigm will shift, essentially. Government and corporate corruption. We're already seeing this. We're going to continue to see it. This is going to get like way bigger. But good. Like we have corporations that are essentially like destroying the planet because they are going to other countries. I'm in the US, so that's my like thought process here, is we have corporations who go to foreign land of whatever kind for material, for resources, and they mine it or steal it or whatever. And then they leave the land in ruins and use the resources for their own personal gain of whatever kind, right? So we're going to have corporations that are abusing their power by doing things like that. And it will be exposed because now we have Sophia there, and Sophia is going to be reminding and showing us the importance of taking care of Mother Earth, Mother Nature, because she provides our resources. So it is narcissistic behavior to take from Mother Earth without replenishing her. And if it's not your land, you should probably like get on out of there. And the US has a lot of lessons to learn in that. Government, corruption and abuse of power. We're already seeing a lot going on with this, but this is going to get bigger. I think I'll just leave it there for that. Let's see. We're going to see the end of celebrity worship. And this is awesome. You're going to see people who... What is a leader? Right? Let's talk about what a leader is. A leader is someone who is going first. They're an inspiration. They're kind of like leading people with a mission of some sort. There's a purpose behind why they are someone to follow, right? And so there's a lot of individuals who either they're going to be invited to have a new purpose, they're going to be invited to follow a new mission that is now like getting out of the patriarchal belief systems and headed into a more balanced direction. Or people are going to get stuck and they're not going to want to make that pivot. They're not even going to hear their intuition kind of like barking at them in that way. And so they're going to hit some illusions. And as they hit those illusions, if they're in a public setting or like that, we will be seeing it. You know what I mean? There's going to be a lot of... The end of celebrity worship is going to stem from a place of we're all one. If you are in a position of power, and if you are in a position of high status or whatever in the patriarchal terms, what are you doing with that? What is your influence actually doing to better the collective, to better humanity? If your main focus is just on yourself, then it will be reflecting that to the collective. And as the collective is going through a lot, people are not going to be impressed anymore. They will not be... Imagine looking at like your favorite, celebrities or whatever, and you're looking up at them while you're going through so much, and you're seeing the collective go through so much. And right now is a great example with the genocides that are going on everywhere, but specifically with Palestine. There are actual accounts on like Instagram or social media accounts in general where there are full-blown Instagram accounts that are tracking which celebrities are talking about humanitarian causes right now. And the genocides being like a big focal point. They are talking about who is talking about it, who is using their platform to use their voice, who isn't, who is staying quiet, who is staying silent, which is complicit within a genocide, and who isn't, who is promoting their own art, their own entertainment, their own movies and albums and whatever else, right? Who is promoting that and staying silent about things that humanity really needs to like come together and unite around, right? So there's entire social media accounts tracking stuff like this and talking about it. That's going to continue because as the collective softens and Sophia is connected to all of us, we're all going to be feeling more. We're going to be more sensitive. We're going to be more connected to one another and the planet and humanity for those of us who like actually took that initiation. And so it's going to be really difficult for people to look at anyone in a position of power, whether it be, CEOs or government institutions, like anyone who's in positions of power who's not connected to Sophia. You have a large group in the collective who are going to be looking at that and being like, ew, frankly, because it screams ivory tower. It screams disconnected from reality. It screams like power, greed, pride. It screams things like that individual, I can't relate to them anymore. That's not someone I can relate to. I don't feel safe with them because they aren't paying attention to my reality. So they were blessed with an opportunity to be in a position of power and influence and responsibility. And some of them don't even want that, right? So that's a whole other thing we're going to have paradigm shifts on. But nonetheless, that influence, it's a choice. You have it. So how are you going to use it? And so we're going to see a lot around that as well. False light prophets. Let's just say religious programming, okay? Religious programming, not all of it, within everything, there is light and dark. Within everything, there is truth and then false light and then false light. So we're going to have a lot of exposure around religious programming. We're going to have a lot of exposure around religion in general. In a patriarchal society, we were like looking up to a patriarchal hierarchy. We weren't connected to Sophia. We weren't connected to our emotions. We weren't connected to our heart in a lot of cases, right? Most of people. And so, because of that, we idolized people. We had like people that we looked up to in order to serve God, idols of whatever kind. That is not necessary. You don't need anyone in order for you to connect to God. Your connection to God is inside yourself. And so as people start realizing that, it's going to shed some light on false prophets as well as religious programming in general. And it's going to break some stuff open pretty loudly because people have devoted themselves deeply to some of these belief systems. And it's heartbreaking when they start realizing that there's false light within it. And that doesn't necessarily mean that people had bad intentions. It just means somewhere along the way, we had false light, and that we have to get back to truth. And so that is in a comfortable situation, but it's what's going to happen. And anyone who is on their own ascension journey within their own internal sacred heart, you have activated the Christ within you. You go through your own consciousness and you connect to a variety of frequencies, and at each frequency, you get information given to you. You don't need this other stuff. So as people continue to ascend at each dimension or each frequency, they'll gather information. And as they gather that information, they'll look at the programming from a religious perspective and be like, this is fake. This isn't real. And so when you're truly connected to your own ascension journey, you start really seeing the fallacies outside because it was built in a patriarchal, materialistic way where you needed a book, you needed a church, you needed someone who is in a hierarchy that's like above you, an idol of some sort. You don't. And you definitely, there's going to be a lot of conversation around how those people don't have to be men either. God is planting a lot of women into positions of power on purpose. False light leaders, it's kind of the same thing. Think CEOs, government officials, whatever. Individuals, whether they have nefarious intentions or not, sometimes false light, you're just given wrong information and you just kind of build an identity around it, build a business around it, whatever. We're going to see a lot of that. Mainstream news, that's one that is like very obvious for a lot of people, but people are going to start understanding that you can't be a follower to the news because some of the narratives it's propaganda. So it's strategically designed to manipulate you in a specific path, a specific direction with specific information. You hear people all the time. It's so ridiculous. They'll be fighting about whatever topic. And their response is that, like, yes, they did the research because they watched the news or they saw it on social media. That's not doing the research. That's you getting propaganda and absorbing it. In order for you to truly do the research, you either need wisdom through experiences or research through a variety of sources where you come to a critical thinking solution for yourself. And you're like, this feels the best to me. This feels right to me. So that's going to be my truth. And then ideally having neutrality so you can navigate away from that if you learn new information, right? When people build entire identities around information, it becomes very dangerous. You're a follower, you know? Social media. This one's going to be a big one. I don't think social media is toxic just as is. But these companies are collecting large amounts of data from people, and people are not paying attention to it. These companies if the product is free, you are the product. Okay? So I'm going to start there. And then it also is negatively impacting the psyche of our collective in a lot of ways. It's also positive in a lot of ways because it brings people together. It allows us to like share information, whatever. But there has to be a shift in regards to social media. So we will be seeing that shift. Think Google. And this one's an interesting one, but if we're really lacking in critical thinking, then Google is actually something that we give our power away to very easy, or search engines in general, but Google is like the largest one. So imagine if you're looking for an information, you and a friend are having a conversation, and you're like, oh, let's just Google it. You Google it. Whatever the answer is that you get in the top couple articles that you click on, that's what you're going to take as truth, potentially. That's what a lot of people do. Well, what if you use a different search engine that isn't Google? Do you get the same results? What if you do a variety of research and you go to different pages, you go to different sources, and you create a more holistic perspective on whatever it is you're trying to research? Most people aren't going to spend their time and energy to do that. And that's exactly why we're going to see that a lot of information is pushed to be convenient for us, and other information is hidden to hide from us. So you have to be willing to push yourself to go find information and think critically for yourself, not be a follower following propaganda or following narratives or following programming, which is mind control, genuinely. So PSYOP, psychological operations, massive amounts of PSYOP kind of like illusions that will be bursted in the coming years. Judging books by their cover. This is going to be really interesting because people do this. Like, we have a very judgmental society, like our collective. That's a shadow in itself. It could be a whole video. So a lot of the individuals that God is like strategically placing, light workers especially, they're being asked to be their authentic selves. And their authentic selves tend to, bring some attention to them by design. Because God is literally showing everyone how judgmental they are. And you're going to accrue a shit ton of karma by talking shit about the anointed ones. And they're hidden. You're not going to want to believe they're anointed. You're not going to want to admit that they're anointed. You're going to feel so much about the fact that that person is not worthy for whatever role God gave them, because you feel as though for whatever reason you know better. No, you don't. Sit down, deal with your own hate that's in your heart, and stop projecting onto people your own judgments. So you're going to see a bunch of people who don't fit the part, because the part is fake. The role that people are trying to fit people into boxes was built in the patriarchal system, which is collapsing because it was not the divine blueprint. So we're going to be having people elevated into positions of power that God deems this is their role. This is their mission. This is their path. And it isn't going to fit into the patriarchal system because that isn't the divine blueprint. So you're going to see people with all sorts of appearances. You're going to see people with all sorts of differences. That's why a big chunk of people on the twin flame journey, you're paired up with individuals to break paradigms. You're paired up with someone from a different race in order for you to both clear the consciousness of that separation. Different belief systems, clear the consciousness of that separation. Different social economic statuses, right? Different all sorts of stuff. Every single thing of separation you can think. We have a variety of divine counterparts who are energetically clearing that for the entire collective to see. That's the entire point. So, yes, it's going to look not part of the patriarchy because we need to break it. We need to come back into the divine blueprint. And so the divine blueprint includes Sophia, emotions, empathy, humanity, heart-centered, planet Earth, right? Love in general. That's all going to be built in to the new system because that's the way it was always supposed to be. You don't have to be a clout chaser. You don't have to do all these things in order to navigate this world. When we are more in balance, you can navigate your own path, your own soul path, and spiritually ascend in order for you to elevate to exactly where God wants you to go, what you designed with God in order for you to get on your path. You don't have to people are very lost. And so up ahead, people's soul paths are going to be very visible. And there's going to be big chunks of the collective that think these people are not worthy of whatever they're given. That's not your decision. That's God's decision. So you and your God complex can take a back seat while this person who's done the work is going to be elevated into the role that they earned spiritually. And because they earned it spiritually, God is giving them that role. And then it's between them and God at that point, right? So people are going to be put into their place. And as that happens, the collective is going to be in a frenzy because they're so judgmental and they're so envious and they have so much jealousy and hate in their heart that it literally is going to get them all into massive traps in order for them to have paradigm shifting moments that, holy crap, I'm wrong. Maybe I should look myself in the mirror. Why do I hate this person so much? Why am I so jealous? Why am I spending so much time and energy on this when I could just literally spiritually ascend myself and see if that is on my path? Maybe something even better for me, right? It's all by design. So every single thing is strategically designed in order to wake people up, to get them to stop being so judgmental, so hateful, and stop being followers. If you think for a second that our society, the way that it is built right now, is the way, which as followers, a big chunk of the collective thinks that, they're going to have it reflected back to them over and over and over that we have been living in darkness, and you yourself may have been operating within it unknowingly, and you have an invitation to evolve with us or don't change and stay over there. But the rest of the collective is going to be evolving. So you can do whatever you want with it, right? people with out moral compasses or without like kind of connection to their own heart, I would say, their own intuition, it's going to get very chaotic for them, probably. And then people who cannot let go of ego attachments or identities, that's also going to be hard, because a lot of the time you're going to be guided to paradigm shifting kind of like leaps in order for you to get onto your soul path or pivot in a different direction on your soul path or participate in your purpose, because we all need each other. We all need to come together. And like your skill set, my skill set, their skill set is all different, and we can all come together and like share with one another in order to create a whole. But individuals who are not operating on their soul path are going to be in the old system, and that is a whole timeline, right? And that's their choice. That's their free will choice. So, okay, I'm going to leave it there. I think that's a good kind of definition, we'll say, of this collective shadow description. That's the word I wanted. And then also some examples. We're going to see a lot of this, and we're already seeing a lot of it. And I think a really important part of this is we're not shaming everyone as they go through these like paradigm shifting moments. Them hitting that illusion, that moment where it shifts their paradigm, is a reflection of the collective. So the collective is going through those moments the same way individuals have to go through it. So we're all connected. We're all kind of clearing this together. And so the judgment and shame is not necessary, right? Like everyone's learning in their own ways. And you reap what you sow. It just is what it is. But it is a very confusing time. And so it will be a confusing time for a lot of people. So having understanding and love and empathy as we navigate all of this is going to be really key, really important. So yeah, we'll leave it there. Okay, I hope this was valuable. I will talk to you guys on the next video. Okay, bye-bye.